All right, this is episode 12 of the Uncovering Anomalies podcast. Today we have a special show on the Uncovering Anomalies podcast. We welcome one of the most passionate and determined minds in breakthrough energy research, Jason Verbelli. Based in San Diego, Jason has spent the last 2 decades exploring the cutting edge of suppressed science and alternative energy. A student of the late John Searl and an early advocate of the teachings of Walter Russell, Jason has helped bring once obscure concepts into public light, ranging from implosion physics to magnetic vortex dynamics. He's collaborated with independent researchers, raising funding for experimental energy devices, and challenged mainstream narratives about what's possible. Despite his YouTube channel being deleted, Jason continues his mission, currently working on a book detailing his findings, theories, and how we can break free from the grip of the energy cartels. It's an absolute honor to have him on the show to talk about everything from Tesla and Searl to Roswell artifacts to the future of UFO disclosure and free energy. Jason, welcome to the Uncovering Anomalies podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to all listeners now and people who will be listening later.
Exactly. Yes, this is, as we know, the internet never forgets, and we're in here for the long haul. You know, where this is a subject we have a huge passion for, and it's intertwined with UFOs and UAPs because obviously these crafts or these beings do use exotic technology, and it's probably behind the secrecy, right? Which we don't. I mean, it's not crazy to think about that. Why wouldn't they keep it secret? You're holding the future in your hand. You know, it's power, it's money, it's everything. So, yes, technology is behind that. I did notice you came up. I think it was on a Ashton Forbes posts. I saw one of yours. You were going back and forth with someone. I'm like, oh, this guy really understands what he's talking about. Went and checked out your account and saw you're into a lot of the scientists and philosophers that we are interested in. So yeah, but you go really deep. You've done all the work. You understand the physics. At least that's what I have seen. You've created devices. You've shown people how these devices work. So yeah, I'd love to get into this with you. We can start wherever you want, but I mean, I guess let's start from the beginning. What got you interested into this field? How did you get into this field? I know you're in San Diego, which is close by to us, in beautiful sunny California.
Absolutely. Got into this stuff around 2004, 2005.
Okay.
Just wanting a different way of life, just like everybody else, sick of paying for gasoline, interested in Nikola Tesla's technologies, and starting to find other people at the time, like Dr. Stephen Greer, when he was becoming first popular.
That's right.
And looking into alternative energy solutions. What can we do if we can grab things around us and use them to help our appliances or just change our lives? What can we do using what's already around us?
Yeah, and that is such a great goal to have, and because it will contribute to humanity. It will help. I mean, it'll help so many of the issues we have, right? I mean, when you just look around, it shows that the system is not working anymore, and it's just getting old. You can just see from how the government is so much debt, and there's no reason for it either, right? I mean, these technologies need to come out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
and
it's about the energy that's already around us, and then converting that into a usable form.
Amazing. So what was the first experiment you did where you found out that this is real, that there is energy around us that we can harness and direct, and and have a modern civilization without digging for fossil fuels and getting them out of the ground, burning them. So yeah, interested in that really.
Some of the first experiments was with earth batteries, like what Nathan Stubblefield was harnessing, or a voltage disparity between the sky and the ground and getting a atmospheric electricity, or Casimir crystal cells.
Yeah,
take magnesium and copper and Epsom salts, and you could make these cells and connect them together in series and get a voltage power LED lights for years.
You're
And
kidding me.
fans and Laser Saber on YouTube has shown this. So I've just been following the directives of what these other brilliant people seem to have discovered and tried to apply them to my own life in my own garage, and then graduated to a professional laboratory.
That is so cool. And was that before you met John Searl? Or did that come after?
That was during the whole process, actually. John Searl, I was in communication with him from about 2006. First started. He was easier to contact than celebrities, I'll tell you that. He was my celebrity. So I wanted to find out if his claims were real. Like, is this guy, he's talking some really fantastic, extraordinary claims. If they're real, it's the most important thing in humanity. If they're not real, then we can move on to somebody else.
Right.
So
Yeah.
trying to invalidate him, I ended up validating him step by step and saying, okay, this is so worth it. I'm going to leave my friends and my family, move 500 miles south from the San Francisco Bay Area to dedicate my life to this venture because it's not valid. And so the experiments that we have done have substantiated John Searl's claims in magnetic waveforms, and then putting that all together in one prototype is the project's goal here in San Diego.
So yeah, tell us about John Searl, because I didn't even hear of him until I saw your posts, and then I watched interviews you had. I watched other videos that actually it looks like you recreated the device, or tried to recreate the device, or a smaller one, right, of what he created. I guess was that in the 60s in the UK.
Originally, it was in the late 40s in the UK. He, as a 14-year-old, he was a savant and a prodigy of electrical engineering, and demonstrated his prowess, and was able to get hired as a supervisor at the largest industrial electric plant that ran all of London.
Wow.
And it was there he kept telling his coworkers that he was having these dreams about hopscotch squares and rings of fire and how he could convert atomic energy into a coherent current. People were calling him crazy, telling him to stop talking or get out or build it and substantiate your claims.
Right.
So he used all of the company resources and all of the factory workers and materials freely to his availability at the industrial electric plant, modified this 12-foot magnetizer, and had these engineers make the parts for him. And he brought them home, assembled them, magnetized them at the facility. It worked better than expected. It worked so good that people never taught him that that's not supposed to happen.
That is crazy. So wait, when you say he is a savant, so he's like autistic, or is it like that Daniel guy, also from the UK, that sees numbers? He sees numbers as figures or something. That type of savant. Like, was he able to speak and express himself? Okay.
He was left as an orphan multiple times by different families, taken and then brought back, taken and then brought back. Nobody wanted him. He was beaten until he was mostly deaf in one ear, half deaf in the other ear. So this is like at a 4- and 6-year-old. They figured, well, he can't hear us anyway, so might as well just not pay attention to him, leave him by himself.
Yeah.
So he was left to his own devices and thought about the entire universe differently than everyone else, and had these reoccurring dreams from ages 6 to 12, twice a year, the same dreams. And that taught him about atomic energy, physics, math, and led him to write almost 100 books called The Law of Squares. And he was a master of this Sudoku-like math that hasn't been used for 5,000 years, called magic squares. And he uses that as a calculator to make his device to absorb the radiation from around it and convert it to usable electricity.
That is so amazing. And it just shows you how fate is fate, huh? I mean, for him to be placed in that position, and then to use the facilities to help him create his devices. I mean, that's just...
He was like a kid in the candy shop. He was in the right place at the right time and had free access. It's not like this guy took refrigerator magnets and made a free energy. No. He had the multi-million-dollar infrastructure of an industrial electric plant that ran all of London. British Rewind Electric Repairs Limited, and then Midlands Electric Board. And
Wow.
it just later on, that company gave him major problems because they found that he was powering his house unbeknownst to the electric company. The electric company, when he left the company, they saw his house wasn't connected to the grid. They said, wait a minute, you haven't been connected to the grid the entire time you've worked here. So you must have been stealing our electricity.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So, but what they discovered when they broke into his house and confiscated the unit he built, they said, wait a minute, you've been generating your own electricity? Yeah. But you built this on company property using our property on company time that you were working here. So it's our device, and every watt of electricity that it generated is ours.
Oh, God.
So they took him to court, and the judge said, okay, we'll bring in this device that you ripped out of his wall, that he plastered in his wall, that you said you confiscated. Electric company said, we lost it.
Of course they did.
So
of course they did.
The judge said, case dismissed. I'm going to have to order you to conscript into the military for 2 years as penance, and I'm not going to have you serve any time or pay any further fees because the electric company is not cooperative.
Right,
So
right.
That was a deal with him back then. And ever since then, since 1982, he's been trying to rebuild the technology equal to as he did at the electric plant.
And how come he couldn't reproduce it then? Is it because he didn't have the exact facilities?
You needed the industrial electric facilities, megawatts of electricity, 12-foot magnetizer, and all the fact he never made the parts himself. He had the factory workers and engineers who were much older than he was do everything for him. He just gave them the shop notes and the tolerances and said, here, make this for me. And
that is amazing.
But so we have to rediscover exactly the machining process. And that's what we've been doing since 2010 here in San Diego at SEG Magnetics.
Yeah. So, wasn't there an experiment? Wasn't there a TV show also that did it on him in the UK? Have you been able to find that one? There was some special, right, done in the BBC. Was it on BBC?
Yeah, actually, there's a master copy in the BBC archives, and it's listed as master clip 2B00227A1 underscore XXX, and it's about John Searl. The BBC filmed him almost every week for a year, giving updates on his construction of his inverse gravity vehicle or his levity disc. And that's what the BBC labeled it as, was his IGV or levity disc. And that was in near Thames, near Reading Bridge in the UK. The Commodore of Great Britain, the Air Commodore, saw him flying his devices through ham radio control, this 11-foot superconducting disc. And that was in 1968.
You are kidding me.
There's witnesses. There is, hearsay and reports of him flying these things around. But allegedly, the BBC does indeed have him listed in their archives. But it was filmed on old reels of footage on local access TV back then, not digital. So I've tried to acquire that footage, but it's not in their archives.
Of course it's not. As usual, classified. They have to.
You do have that master clip, and people rewind that 2B00227A1 underscore XXX master clip levity disc.
That was filmed in the 80s?
That was filmed around 1960.
Oh, that was in the 60s too.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So could you imagine? I mean, he was obviously ahead of his time. But was he ever approached by like the military industrial complex or the intelligence community?
Yes. He was approached. I have a letter from the United States Air Force Division in Europe that in 1971, I think it is, asking for John Searl his reports on his, quote, disc-shaped type of flying craft. And they wanted to have John Searl send all of his, here it is. It was June 15th, 1976, European Office of Aerospace Research and Development from, let's see, where does this here? Yeah, to John Searl. I have the responsibility for the U.S. Air Force propulsion and energy conversion research and development interests in Europe, and presently located the European office and the aerospace research. Yeah, they wanted this report at no charge to the government. Could you please send me a copy?
Of course.
And in the 1980s or late 70s, John Searl came to the U.S. and was giving lectures. While he was here, it was rumored that he befriended somebody who worked in the CIA. John didn't know this. And after John got back to the UK, that's when his life started to unravel. And then the electric company confiscated his stuff. So like it's debated that the CIA had a direct involvement in trying to take down John Searle's work in the late 70s.
Yeah, I wonder if they had something, just didn't want someone to compete with them. Obviously, they've always taken out people, right? That especially inventors that don't want to play ball. Not sure if John didn't want to play ball or they just
he never wanted to play. He refused to give up the magnetization process. He said it's going to remain a trade secret, like Coca-Cola's recipe. Because if you have that, you can harness energy from around you remotely anywhere on the earth without anybody knowing. And you can refine nuclear materials without people knowing. You could do some nasty, harmful stuff. Power bio labs without people knowing. You do not want certain people to have certain amounts of energy availability.
Right. So I mean, how much energy was he harnessing? Was his devices harnessing? Was it just an insane amount or just enough?
It's specific to the amount of mass of the unit. So in this case, mass does not convert into energy directly. There is no literal conversion. In this interpretation, it's about a given amount of mass converts random energy into ordered energy. And it takes a given amount of mass to do that. So we have all this randomized static around us that we take for granted as temperature. And his unit, weighing about 180 pounds, could convert enough energy to provide 15 kilowatts, 15,000 watts.
Wow.
So you can scale that up, and the rule of thumb is about 90 watts per pound. But you have to have a minimum amount of mass in order to start the system and initiate a chain reaction. Because it's about high voltage, and then you step down the high voltage to produce the amps you need. So you need the amount of mass in motion to produce the high voltage.
I mean, can't they release these technologies without giving a blueprint to everyone? Or do you think once it's released, that's it? Because we have nukes, right? We've had nukes for a long time. I'm sure by now everyone knows how they work. That technology is out there, and we still have regulations and control on it so that the wrong people don't have. So we can do the same thing, correct, with these technologies?
Yes, because it still takes a given amount of machining. But I mean, you could still do intricate machining down to the milligram and micron, like in a remote location. I mean, it's not that difficult, but you do have to have precise machining. It'll just take a long time. But if you have the resources, like the big boys, you could do it a lot sooner. But yeah, this could be considered an anti-nuke because the coherent field can render the radioactivity inert. So there are stories of UFOs and UAPs flying over nuclear facilities and disabling their ICBMs. And to my view, what that's doing is it's creating electron pairs in a spring-loaded manner, which are then shooting into the atomic structure of those radioactive materials through the column barrier, because there's so much spring-loaded force of these electrons, longitudinal energy. So it can just shoot right in and change the charge of the radioactive isotope and render it inert.
Wow. And no shielding can stop that?
No, because the energy, it's not fermions and single electrons that can be blocked by insulators. The energy is bosons, which behaves like light. It's like a Newton's cradle. So it'll like knock through the lattice of the material, but through the electric and magnetic field. Doesn't need direct subatomic collisions. There is no way to shield that. Faraday cage, doesn't matter.
No,
so
there you go.
Hover over the facility, ramp up their power, and now your nukes mean nothing.
Yeah, and that makes sense then why they want this also suppressed, because then it kind of hurts the hegemony of the countries that have these weapons, right?
And there are projects that have tried to duplicate John Searle's work, even with like Dr. Eugene Podklednov or Dr. Ning Li. Dr. Ning Li was given top secret clearance to work on rotating superconductors. And there are projects like Project Green Glow and Project GRASP, GRASP.
Okay.
And Boeing tried to do these anti-gravity things. They call it Green Glow because it produces so much high voltage that it ionizes the nitrogen in the air like the northern lights. So
wow.
It glow around the unit as it's producing gravitational emissions and energy.
So do you think, like many of us do, that the black world, the black budget, military industrial complex have had these technologies for have they figured it out? Like Stephen Greer tells us that they, not just Stephen Greer, but many others have said that they probably broke gravity mid to late 50s, right, with Townsend T. Brown's research and others. So what do you think? Have we broken gravity? Do we have these devices?
That is to be debated, but I think yes. I think yes, there are aspects of people, the surface dwellers here on the planet who have that, but it's not the military. It's not any government that we know. It's like not even the government, the presidents or CIA have access to it, like Greer says. I do believe that. But I think that they have tried to crack it using the radioactive isotopes. John Searl was able to crack it using a given amount of mass with magnetic waveforms, and that's his discovery. And why is this so unique? And people have a hard time believing it. Is because people don't believe that humans can make things that don't exist in nature. And that's a leap. But we can, because laser beams do not exist in nature.
Very true.
It took humanity to use the laws of nature to geometric perfection. And that's what John Searle did, but in regards to magnetic waves rather than light. So it guides electrons like a Bose-Einstein condensate like a laser, pretty much. Spring-loaded laser.
And it uses harmonics and geometry as well, right?
Exactly. Everything is a synergy and perfect geometry. Like a circle is a perfect it's geometry. It's perfect 360 degrees. John Searle's device is geometrically perfect, abiding by the law of squares, which is this 5,000-year-old form of math, like low shoes magic squares. And he uses that as a calculator to determine the mass of the units and how much random energy can be converted to coherent energy. The random numbers represent atomic energy, and when you transpose those to make them equal the same thing, all the output is the same. That's a Bose-Einstein condensate, and he applied that for electrons and gravity.
What do you think of the vortex math? Like that started, I remember it started getting popular maybe 8 years ago. Was it 10 years ago? Something like that.
20 years ago.
Was it 20? Oh, okay. With the number 9, it was 369. I remember, and I remember it was all.
Yeah, don't get me started. Okay, so Marco Rodin is a friend of mine, and he taught me how to wrap his Rodin coils, and I did a tutorial on that, film that. But the statement about 369, allegedly from Nikola Tesla, that statement does not exist. It is that is an internet myth. Nikola Tesla never said anything about 369.
Really? Or the number 3, right? He didn't say anything about number 3 either.
No, he said energy, frequency, and vibration, but he didn't say 369. That is attributed to John Worrell Keeley. Neil Pond can tell people more about that. But Nikola Tesla never said that. But vortex math I do take as being valid. There's got to be some validity to it. Base 9 math or base 10. It's just a different math is a language, and you can use different forms to say the same thing.
Yeah. So have you I think this post here was this a John Searl device? 1 second. This one here.
Yes, those are the mock-ups.
And this is a working device?
What you see on that table represents about $150,000 of work over the course of a few years. And that
Wow.
is a demonstration unit, not a fully working prototype. So what you see on the table there, the right there with the gold things, is
Right here?
to the left is a
Yeah.
mock-up to display the magnetic characteristics of the design
Oh.
and the interactions and Lorentz force. What you see in the front on the right here is to show the frictionless magnetic bearing effect, like the maglev train, and to show that when you put those two together, the waveforms create that frictionless bearing effect and then produce energy as the system orbits and spins without touching. So
That
it's the
is so
waveforms that
crazy.
are the reason why the system operates as it does. And without that, it's a paperweight. And that's what people are stuck on, is they're using regular magnets or trying to force magnets together, even though they want to repel. But John Searl impresses an actual sine wave and an electric signature into the magnetic field itself. And that is unheard of. There's no literature about that because he discovered it. And
So he's manipulating magnetic waves.
yes. And so John Searl discovered something that does not exist in nature. He, just like laser beams. So, but this
and
is
laser beams, just so people know, it's the control and it's harmonics with light, right?
in a resonant cavity.
Yes.
You
Yes.
you shine a light on a crystal, the crystal
Mhm.
glows whatever color it is, and then you trap that light in a resonant cavity specific to the wavelength of light that you're trying to isolate. The size is resonating with that, and then it's bouncing between two mirrors, one mirror of which is a partial one-way mirror, and it bounces. So it's like that doesn't exist in nature.
Right. It's amazing how our minds can think of these things, right? Obviously, many people have said it comes from outside, like John Searl. I mean, he dreamt these things, or these devices. Many inventors say that they've dreamt these things or saw them in visions, right? Even DNA, the double helix structure, that was, I think it was an acid trip, if I'm not mistaken, right, where they saw that double helix.
They stole that from the lady. Actually, she was the founder of the DNA, and then they stole the information from her.
Not surprising.
Yeah,
I had no idea about that. So look at this. I mean, so this is showing that the magnet is not sticking.
That is showing you can't. That on the left, what is showing is attraction to that ring, but then repelling just before it touches. So there is a long range attraction and a short range repulsion. There's a magnet inside of that big copper spinning ring on the left. So the magnet wants to attract to the magnet in there, but the rotating copper generates eddy currents, which want to put the magnet away. So there gets this equilibrium where the magnet will maintain its orbit around that ring, but without touching, like the maglev train on a straight track, but applied.
Yeah. And is it loud? Does it make a lot of noise, these machines?
The demonstration mock-ups make some noise because you're dealing with a physical motor that is spinning the copper, which has a gear and a belt and a strap. So it's like there's friction. So it's a normal motor that's turning this stuff. But in the prototype, it's acting like the maglev train, which doesn't have wear, and there is no sound except for the air that you would hear being pushed away until a certain voltage, and then it would just be completely silent after that because there would be an electrostatic vacuum sort of at the surface of the materials.
So I mean, I would think any investor would love to invest in this if they have the money, and I'm sure you've communicated very well about the science and the reality of the science, and then with this demonstration device should impress them. Have you seen any interest, and would it monetize? I mean, obviously investors do want to see a return on investment. Would this then monetize in a way where it will be a centralized power station, and then would distribute the power for much less, for example? Would that be the incentive?
That could be. That is one application. So we could charge the solar farms and the wind turbine farms money so that they can get energy in the off times, because the sun doesn't shine 24/7 and the wind doesn't blow 24/7, but they give energy to their customers So we could supplement energy to those companies in their off time so they can have guaranteed energy even through blackouts, because or EMPs. It would just consider it fuel and convert it to electricity. So that would be one angle to distribute it to the big boys and make them pay. And then as a centralized company, offer everybody else a cheaper rate. So then why would you want to get it from them? But
exactly.
And then you distribute the units by lease. But initially you can't do that because of the liability. You're going to get murdered and so you'd probably want to hide the technology under a solar panel or in a wind turbine and say, hey, you get 20% better efficiency with this one. And then it just so happens it powers your whole house, even in the dark without wind. And you're like,
oh my God,
that's what a coincidence, right? I mean, so you undersell and overperform.
Yeah, because we are dealing with cartels here. I mean, have you had any issues with regulators? Because that's how they, that's how they send their agents out.
We're not at that stage yet, so we're not at the danger zone yet because we're still in the R&D phase to rebuild what John Searl originally did. So there's no direct threat, but John Searl was poisoned. People who wanted him to sign over his rights to his company. This was years and years ago, like a couple decades ago. They poisoned him. He went to the hospital. He almost died. And then while he was intubated with the tube down his throat, the doctors screwed up when they were pulling it out, and it messed up his trachea. He could never drink water for the rest of his life.
Oh, man.
He could only drink thick milkshakes and stuff, or else it would choke him. But then my colleague, my boss, who's also in this video that you're showing, outside of this very laboratory, he was stabbed in the neck multiple times by a psychotic maniac. Yeah, bro. He almost died. He's just a random psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Dude.
We're going to believe that. He lived?
Yeah, it was on the news and stuff. And it was very, very, very scary. It was traumatizing. I have a lot of stuff on film. It was all on film, dude.
That is so crazy how these. Yeah.
Everything was on film. I have receipts for everything that I speak about. So.
And you should. I mean, it protects you. So, I mean, do you think? I mean, have you guys successfully recreated what John Searl was doing? I guess the question is, do you have the blueprints? I mean, were you able to recreate what he created?
There are no blueprints because blueprints apply to length, width, and height, or diameter and thickness. This has an added factor of density. So every part has to weigh the same and be the same size, down to the milligram and micron. So the rule of thumb is 90 watts per pound. So you could take that. It could be 3 feet in diameter, standing 4 inches tall.
Right.
Or it could be 2 feet in diameter, standing 8 inches tall. Still weighs the same. So how do you design it? It's still going to output 15 kilowatts at that given weight. So how will you what is the size? That's dependent upon how you design it. And all of that is dependent upon the magnets, because it's built around the magnets. So until you know the composition and the density of your magnets, you don't know the other factors to plug into the squares to tell you what you need. So first you have to do years. We've done 10 years of research on the types of magnets that we are using now. And now we can go into mass production on this to do the prototype. But it takes me 100 days. It takes me 1 month to make 100 rings by hand. We need about 5,000.
Wow. All right.
I'm the only worker. I'm the only employee. I don't know how to operate and program our CNC lathe. So we would need to hire somebody dedicated to that machine to work full time for 2 years. So that's we need the funding to hire. It's not like you can do that. So
and you can't crowdsource this stuff, right?
No, that's because the way our company is structured is a 506 corporation. We solicit the sale of shares. So the only way to fund this technology is if accredited investors purchase shares in the company.
So it can't be just anyone purchasing the shares. You have to be an accredited investor.
Correct. And every share is equal to a voting right in the company. So you don't want to just sell your shares to somebody who will stab you in the back later, because that has happened. We had a hostile takeover attempt in 2016, and we had to reform the company and restructure everything because they tried to get John Searl to sign his rights again away. They violated NDA agreements and filed a patent in their own name saying they're the inventors.
My God.
It's just been absolute hell for the entire time I've been working on this and John Searle's entire life. So it's
unbelievable, huh? I mean, not a surprise.
It's everybody who has worked on this thing. Every single group has discovered anomalies worth further investigation, but everybody needs funding.
Everybody. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Why not give it to the original inventor first? What the hell?
What a system, especially that you need accredited investors, and you can't, like you just said, you can't trust all of them. Someone's going to stab you in the back. Crazy how you can't crowdsource something like this. And is it because it's technology? That's just, is it because of the industry that it's in, why you can't crowdsource? Because I see crowdsourcing all the time for products, or is that different?
Specific to 501c3s or pre-sales or stuff. But if you're seeing somebody sell things pre-sale, there's a red flag. There's a problem. If you have something ready, then sell what you already have. But don't pre-sale things like the Perendev motor or like these magnet motor. That's just a sheer sign of fraud.
Yeah, there's so much fraud, unfortunately, in this space. It's just easy to fool people and trick them.
Exactly. And so we want to keep our feet on the ground, get rid of the esoteric claims, and test things in a professional environment and refine the terminology and see what's really happening. And that's what we've done since 2010. Fernando Morris, really since the 80s, he was the only person to duplicate the magnetic waveforms in the world. And that's why we have this company, is because that justifies the work. Without that, there would be no justification to do anything. But there is validity to it because of the magnetic waveforms. It creates the frictionless bearing effect. It can facilitate the absorption of electrons from the surroundings through electron capture. It creates Bose-Einstein. There is so many factors, subcarriers and sine waves, AC outputs. Everything John Searl has said has been validated step by step from what we have personally done, which has justified the next step. And the next step that we are on is the $3 million end result to machine all these magnets together, put them together, and generate the electron emissions.
Well, I hope you guys can get the funding.
Once we do that, that will justify the mass production money of tens of millions to have a gigafactory like a Tesla facility. Raw materials would come in, fully working models and units would come out of the same building.
So amazing.
That's the goal.
And so I guess, what's stopping that? Is it fear from the investor community? I mean, what have you seen that might be?
Well, we've been days away, hours away from funding, but then they see that fraudulent patent that these people who violated the NDA said, well, wait a minute, does John Searl own this technology or not? Because these guys say that they own it. So we're just going to have to take a step back until you guys handle that in court, okay?
Oh my God.
Money to go to court.
Yeah, exactly. It takes a lot of money.
And the main thing is the physics and electrical engineering claims. Everybody interprets things through the eyes of relativity. And relativity says that some of these things are not possible because of mass increasing with acceleration of velocity, light speed limits, energy literally interchanging with mass, and all of these fallacies that are not accurate. They're not real. So, and also people do not believe that humans can make something that doesn't exist in nature. And the cherry on top is the UFO claims from John Searl, claiming that he was flying these superconducting levity discs in the 60s before the moon landing, or alleged.
Alleged, yeah.
Makes everybody happy. Okay? So, but John Searl was doing that before the rockets, and he pretty much made it obsolete before they even came around. So sorry, Werner.
That's just mind-boggling to me too. Is like, someone like Musk, which he has a lot of investors, a lot of investments in rocket technology. The guy's got to know that it's ancient. So he's either just part of that illusion, and it's some massive fraud of investors.
He's a realist, right?
Yeah.
We have to use what works now, what is tried and true. And he has not been privy to the exotic stuff like rotating superconductors. And he has now access to a lot of stuff in the government. So he's looking real hard with a magnifying glass, and I don't see any secret programs. So therefore, let's continue with rockets. No,
Right.
He has his proclivities, but I think it would be wise for him to hedge his bets.
Yeah.
Rotating superconductors and nuclear batteries and things that could make things a lot more interesting in a shorter period of time.
Have you guys tried to reach out to him or his team and they should at least put something in? What's $3 million to the guy? Wasn't he putting $1 million a day into Trump's inauguration? So
yeah, but that's a little more important at that stage. Okay, so everything is case by case basis at the stage that it's at. You have to view it that way. Yeah. But at this current stage, everything on this flyer that I made that you're showing, I'd say about $25 million would fund most everything on there. And wow. Jeff Bezos spent about $1 billion on an Amazon TV show called The Rings of Power. Flop of a TV show. But John Searl was the real Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And here are the real rings of power. So we can power houses and devices and our society with a fraction of the cost of that. So
you could actually get to Bezos. Now I'm just thinking about it because he's basically competing with Musk.
Richard Branson knew about John Searl.
Oh, well, look at that.
But there was all this infighting because even back then, people were trying to get John Searl to sign his rights away, or here, you give me this secret, I want it.
Right.
They tried forming companies behind his back. And the story from John Searl was that Richard Branson saw this infighting and took a step back and said, man, I don't know who owns what. Seems really interesting. I would love to have it, but I really don't think John Searl would be able to do it. He's too old. That was back in the 70s.
Oh my God.
Well, he lived until 2018, so, but now he left us his legacy and all of the information that he never divulged to everyone else in the last year of his life or so.
Amazing.
Really opening up. And that's how we were able to build the magnetizer with his tutelage and under the auspice of Fernando. So I'm like Igor in the lab, and I just don't have a hump on my back.
So do we know what kind of dreams these were? Was he talking to people, or other beings that?
No, they were specific
like downloads.
Dreams. He was his first dream, he called Dream 1, was him as a little kid playing hopscotch. There was a rock on square 3, and he was hopping over it to square 4. And then this giant steamroller comes at him and is about to squash him, and it splits into segments. And then he wakes up absolutely terrified. Whoa. That was one dream. The second dream was he's climbing up this ladder to a loft, and he opens up this attic door, and around the attic door, when he climbs up the loft, is these bales of hay forming a circle and like spokes. And then all of a sudden it catches fire around him and he's terrified, but something tells him, no, it's okay. You're in the center of the ring. So it doesn't matter what the fire that's around you. You're safe and it's calm in the center.
Whoa.
So he took those 2 dreams to interpret as the law of squares, writing almost 100 books talking about physics, chemistry, astronomy, atomic energy, coherence and incoherence, all of that from those 2 dreams, reoccurring from ages 6 to 12, twice a year.
Wow.
And that's how he didn't talk to anybody. He just interpreted it like Nostradamus from his own dreams.
That is just, it is so crazy. 100 books. I had no idea. I mean, I'm going to definitely read up on his books. Are they easy? Is it easy read?
No. No. It's the most complex topic that I have ever come across in my life.
Oh God! I mean, Walter Russell is pretty hard.
I have there's 25 of his books for free that I have available.
Oh, on your drive that you've been sharing?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, I'll check those out. I see also you have Safire Project here. What do you think of that? Of the
Yes.
Safire
Oh
Project?
yeah. Oh yeah. Here we go. So, Safire Project. I had been following it since its inception,
Uh-huh.
and I'm the moderator of the Electric Universe Theory page on Facebook.
I
And
didn't know that. That is so cool.
yeah,
I'm obsessed with Electric Universe. Yeah.
yeah, I've been involved for quite some time,
That's
and
amazing.
I hope to do a talk with them sometime. But the Safire Project specifically, headed by Montgomery Childs, they got some funding from Orion. I think that's their name, Orion Technology, Orion Inc. And they have since gone more private, but they did give an update last year or in 2023 and a little walkthrough of their facility. I have that also. They're on X. They have their Safire Project updates on X. It's like people don't know they exist. They're like, I haven't heard anything. They went quiet. Dude, they're there. What are you doing? People
really, they have their own.
So what they have done is they have this tungsten sphere as an electrode inside of this giant cylindrical.
That's what it is. It's tungsten. It's tungsten. Okay.
And one of the tungsten electrodes is hollow and it has holes and it shoots out hydrogen gas from it. So they high voltage this electrode in a semi vacuum, and it's extremely hot in that chamber. So they have a huge jet engine turbofan to suck out the heat from the chamber to vent it at a constant. So it's it is not a cool experiment. I mean, it's cool. hey,
it's not cool. Right.
So what it does, no Photoshop, no CGI, develops these plasma shells and these double layers of plasma, which look like layers and rings of an onion or something. And each concentric layer is alternating in polarity and is isolating the heat that is produced from that electrode. So at the surface of the electrode, it might be 1,000 Kelvin.
Yeah.
Outside of those plasma shells, it's about 500 Kelvin. But trapped in those double layers of plasma is equal to 3 million Kelvin.
Wow.
So it's not melting the walls of the chamber. But yet it's producing massive heat, but that 3 million is specific and isolated within those electrostatic fields and rings and shells. So that is called the Alphen point. And in space, on our own sun, the real surface of the sun, yes, the sun has an actual condensed matter surface. It's not just a ball of gas. It's condensed matter, metallic hydrogen. So at the surface of the sun, it is cooler than the atmosphere around it in the corona, which has trapped in there as millions of degrees, equal to millions of degrees. So,
and we're recreating that basically here, right? With this device.
But you got to take note that we don't see these double layers of plasma around our sun because in this experiment specifically, they have condensed matter walls around it. So it's creating like a laser, a resonant cavity. So that's why you see those plasma shells and you're able to see them. You can witness them in this chamber, but you can't see them in the open cosmos, but they're present. You can see evidence of that in like the rings of Saturn and the rings of Jupiter. Yeah, Jupiter has rings too.
Yeah.
They're made of like ionized sulfur particles and stuff. But like there's Jupiter, Saturn, and all these alleged gas giants are really made of condensed matter metallic hydrogen. It's hydrogen that is so scrunched together from pressure that it turns metallic. And the definition of a metal is when the atoms of a material are scrunched together so tightly that the electrons share a common lattice. So when you do that with hydrogen, the electrons share a common lattice. Well, now you have metallic.
Metal.
It's still hydrogen, but it's a metallic version of it. And it's incompressible by definition. You can't collapse on itself. Stars cannot collapse because they're made of condensed matter. So this goes into like why black holes cannot be real and like all this.
Exactly. Yeah. Dark energy.
Dark matter, dark energy. All of those things are specific to Lorentz invariance and relativity, but there are other ways of interpreting the same observations. And
So and also the Safire Project produces elements that weren't there. Correct?
Yes, transmutation.
Transmutation. Yeah.
From the I wouldn't say low energy nuclear reactions. They're mid energy nuclear reactions in there, but still, it's not like energy in the sun where it's a full on fusion. And but there is a lot going on that has to do with coherence and high voltage here on Earth and duplicating the aspects of the sun. And they don't do that with a gaseous electrode. So electrodes aren't gaseous; they're condensed matter.
Right. So that transmutation and creating of elements, it does remind me of one of the conclusions in Walter Russell's books, where he says that we don't even need, if we understand how light really works and how this technology works, or his concepts, then we don't need to dig for anything ever again. We can just create them or recreate them. So that's what that reminds me of.
I still think you might need to dig for some stuff, because the manufacturing process in order to make a element heavier and heavier is probably not as easy as just mining it from the moon or within the asteroid belt that we already got here. So that's
coming up next.
You can take the raw materials and then you manufacture them or refine them, kind of like a semiconductor process with like dozens of steps and stuff. But you can do that with advanced materials and technologies. Take them extreme high pressure and then into a vacuum, and then high pressure into the so like there's probably metamaterials and stuff that would seem like they're alien materials, but really they're manufactured here on Earth in ways that we don't know about.
Oh, that makes
using
sense.
earthly resources. So if you go to test them, you'd see, hey, wait a minute, it's still made of this and this and this. Yeah, it's because it was manufactured here from the
natural processes. Yeah,
but maybe not necessarily by governments, I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. Do you think China or Russia have gone as far as we have? If not more, and if they have, why haven't they also disclosed themselves? Are they run by the same group, the same international cabal? I guess we'll call them.
I think some of these people have some genuine stuff, but not to the degree that they allow everybody to believe that. And that is part of the game of chess with international war, in a Cold War, or even just in a new digital age. The ability for you to get your enemy to believe that you have something that they don't. And keeping things secret, no matter what it is in these black projects, allows for foreign countries to think that we have more than they do. Or you wonder what China must have, or what they might have. We don't know. There's no way to determine that other than from hearsay through like Bob Lazar or Dr. Greer's Disclosure Project and stuff like that. That's all we have to work with. And alleged debris and crashes and people's abduction stories and hearsay. But we can take the similarities from all of that hearsay and say, wait a minute, there's something bigger going on here that has to have some validity. And it's not it's not easily dismissed. There's something else going on major.
So Tom Bearden, did you know Tom Bearden? Did you meet him?
Yeah, I did.
So amazing.
John Searl was good friends with Tom Bearden, and they communicated over the years through email and snail mail, handwritten letters.
Wow, man! Wow,
I have a couple pictures of them together.
I mean, he was something else too. I mean, he was on another level with his thinking and his inventions, and he wrote a lot of papers for the government as well, right?
Yeah, I disagree with their interpretation slightly here and there, but I agree with the end results. We can power stuff unconventionally, but I have a different interpretation that gets me in a lot of trouble, but whatever.
Which is fine. Yeah, let us know. So what is the different interpretation you have?
Well, I say that we do not need space-time or ether at all.
Yes, I did see that when you said about ether. Yeah, go ahead.
So I take light as being the result of single electrons dropping energy levels within 3 dimensions. I take gravity as being electron pairs dropping energy levels from a coherent state back to an incoherent state in 3D. So when you compress electrons and confine them through Lorentz force, or you spring load them, it's like magnets force together even though they want to repel.
Right.
And if you have magnets together in a stack and you allow the last one to go, it'll accelerate away from the stack with the equal amount of force of the total amount of magnets and the repulsion, right?
Right.
So apply that in 2 dimensions. You have a sheet or a ring of electrons. They can't go up and down. They could only scrunch together shoulder to shoulder, more and more and more, spring loading. And upon release from that ordered state, like a sine wave, you get massive energy. And when those electron pairs split, you get the production of gravity. I don't think that gravity is the nature of space-time at all. I think gravity is an emission which propagates just like light. But Newton got it wrong, saying it's directly related with mass. No. The more mass, the more electrons. The more pressure, the more order and coherence of those electrons to form pairs. Once those pairs escape that boundary and split, then you get the production of gravity at a constant, at a specific wavelength and frequency. But the illusion is that by the time you measure any gravity or light, you're only measuring your own packets that your own electrons reproduce. It's physically impossible to measure any packet other than your own because it's an opposite reaction. So everybody thinks the speed of light is the same no matter what, because everybody is only capable of measuring the re-emitted light from the electrons making up themselves. So the relativity's entire interpretation is based on the speed of light being the same no matter what. But if it shifts at all, ever, then all of relativity and all of their gravitational theory is out the door window. So like John Searl created this device which brings in electrons, couples them, compresses them, and then releases them. And if that happens at too intense of a rate, it will produce emissions of gravity, which is why it lifted off of his table when he was first to experiment, because it was so coherent, generating electron pairs that were splitting. But everybody thinks that you need the mass of a planet or a star in order to do that.
Right.
No, you need the coherence. Humanity can engineer that level of coherence to geometric perfection on a tabletop, not a 17-mile ring with CERN trying to bash together particles.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
No, we can,
because they want to waste money. I swear, it's not waste money. It's like money laundering, or just like, let's see how much money we could just throw into something, whether it works or not. Who cares?
Dude,
we're making money.
Why haven't they put billions of dollars into finding Bigfoot? Like I call dark matter Darkfoot because it's always hiding behind some cosmic tree.
That's hilarious.
There's literally more evidence for Bigfoot than there ever has been for dark matter.
Right? Yeah, I agree. So wait, so where did these devices go? So you said they levitated. I think some just went away, right? I mean, where would they go? The sun?
That's the claim. No, because it would repel away from matter, like any coherent field or any coherent gravity would repel the coherent gravity being produced by this unit.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, of course.
So you have incoherent gravity and a coherent gravity. You have plane wave fronts and spherical wave fronts. You have primary emissions and re-emissions, and it's not all the same. It's not the same gravity that's coming from the sun. Okay, check this out. Earth is not orbiting the exact center of the sun. Earth is orbiting where the center of the sun used to be 8.33 minutes ago. So there is a lag of about 20.5 arc seconds and 8.33 minutes from the time it takes light and gravity to get from the sun to the Earth. But by the time it gets here, the sun has shifted in its position because everything's moving through space.
Right. Yeah.
So the light that gets here and the gravity that gets here is 8.33 minutes old, but it's coming at a constant and our orbit is at a constant. So the gravity is a constant, but it's not the same gravity. The Earth is absorbing the primary and re-emitting a secondary gravity, and then our own electrons are absorbing that and re-emitting that. So there's a different way of looking at the same scenarios, but with a completely heretical stance. And my view is that we don't need ether or space-time or any medium at all to propagate light or gravity. And I wrote these books. It was one book, but it grew to almost 929 pages. So I had to split it into 4 books, and I recorded 4 audio books.
Oh, really? I'll get them then.
Talking
We'll
about
link them.
gravity. It's about light, gravity, time, and coherence. 4 different books. And I'm still editing the audiobooks, and I will be releasing these in the next couple months or so.
Very exciting. I'd love that. I'd love to listen to them.
This will give everybody a lot more context to what the heck I'm trying to say and why I'm saying that.
Yeah.
This is based upon the work of Dr. Edward Dowdye, who first presented that notion in 1991. He was the first person in human history to ever come up with the idea that it's not the same light. It's not the same distorting light. It's a brand new re-emitted light. Since the 1600s.
Yeah, when was that? When did he come out with that? Dowdye.
Dowdye first in 1991, and then he released his book in 2001. His first peer review was in 2007. It took him 16 years as a NASA retiree and a university-level professor of math in 5 different universities. He taught courses in Heidelberg, Germany, in atomic physics. He built the lasers and satellites for NASA to test the polar ice caps and the atmosphere of Venus and pulsars and quasars and microwaves and stuff. Like, he was way more qualified than Einstein ever was. Like,
there he is, Edward Dowdye Jr.
Exactly. So he had absolutely magnificent qualifications, and that is the quote of the century. If the velocity of light is even a tiny bit dependent upon the velocity of the light source, then my entire theory of relativity and gravitation is false. That's from Einstein. And it turns out, yes, the velocity of light is dependent upon, but there's an illusion, your own electrons, and like the Michelson-Morley interferometer, the interferometer is only capable of reproducing the fringe patterns from the electrons making up itself. So it's physically impossible to produce the change of the fringe patterns that they are looking for, because the electrons making up the measuring equipment absorbs the primary and extinguishes that which they are trying to measure and reproduces a brand new one.
It reproduces it. So basically you're saying light is not a particle, one particle that travels light years, for example. It hits other particles that reproduces and reproduces. It's like just like a wave, right?
There is only a pure wave theory for light in this model, no particle wave duality. And as it pertains to the double slit experiment,
right? Yeah, I was just going to come to that.
People don't realize that there are 4 different experiments that produce 4 completely different results that have nothing to do with each other.
Oh my God!
Everybody thinks there's one experiment that magically flips with observation. It doesn't look like that. You have light going through 2 slits. It produces 2 beams of light. You have a laser being blocked by 2 slits, and that produces an interference pattern. The 2 slits have to fit within the diameter of that beam in order to produce the pattern. And then you have particle patterns from like a tungsten. They use a tungsten filament at 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's blasting off particles because it's so hot. And that produces 2 particle beams. But if you block that beam with 2 slits, you're going to get an interference pattern. That has nothing to do with the 2 experiments with the light. So there's 4 different experiments that produce 4 different results. And then
you're kidding me. So you're telling me the whole quantum theory and the whole 2-slit experiment, all that is just you're kidding me.
Get this. When the electrons hit the slits of that, so you have to have those 2 slits, which are about 100 nanometers apart. And this is inside of a black box on a tabletop. This isn't like a human-sized experiment that they let you believe with Dr. Quantum.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's down the rabbit hole. And what the bleep do we know? It's and it's crap nonsense. So what happens is that the 2 slits are within that one beam. They have a diffraction pattern, but it's not the same electrons that are hitting the wall.
Right.
The edges, the sharp edges of the slits themselves are re-emitting brand new electrons, which are then distributing in that pattern. But everybody thinks that's the same electrons, assuming it's the same ones that are choosing a path.
Right.
Quantum eraser experiment. It's bull. It's nonsense.
Man.
All has to do with re-emissions of light and re-emissions of particles. It is not flip-flopping. Right. It's all nonsense. So half of quantum theory is nonsense. All of relativity is nonsense.
Yeah, I was going to say. So, what about quantum computers then? How are these things really working, or is it all BS? Is it just another hole for funding?
No, they do extremely fast computations, but
Yeah.
the mechanism of how it operates, it doesn't require a particle wave duality to operate. You can look at the same scenario and data and say, we don't need ether or dark matter or space-time curvature or particles in superposition to achieve that. We can achieve that. It is being achieved, obviously, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's not using this model, or this model. How about this new one?
Yeah, which is the refracting medium.
This is not Mond theory. This is not tired light theory. This is what I call Galilean variance, because relativity uses Lorentz invariance. The speed of light is the same no matter what. Right. Ether theory used Galilean invariance, thinking that the speed of light is the same no matter what because of a shifting ether. The relativity thinks that the differences in frequencies between atomic clocks, they think that all of time and space is warping around the clock and the speed of light is the same. Right. But really, the frequency shift between atomic clocks is the gravity affecting the electrons in orbit. They think that the cesium atom oscillates at the same rate, no matter what. But it's different. But it's different in different strengths of gravity. So as you're flying over a mountain, that's a different strength of gravity than the trench of an ocean.
That makes total sense.
So you have fluctuations of gravity that affect the oscillation rate of the electrons in orbit and at different altitudes.
And that's the difference.
So then you have a compounded difference in the click rate over the week, and people don't realize they have to resynchronize the GPS satellites once a week because of the difference in tick rates of stratum clocking. And it has nothing to do with space-time curvature. It has everything to do with the electron potentials changing because of the gravitation. It has nothing to do with space-time. But they think gravity is space-time curvature. So if the clock changes because of gravity, it must be because of space-time. No, there's a different way of looking. And even one of the guys who invented GPS, Ron Hatch, he wrote a book called Escape from Einstein, where he details how GPS has nothing to do with relativity. And the inventor of the cesium atomic clock, Dr. Lewis Essen, said special relativity is nonsense. Einstein is just a dunce.
I mean, it feels like we've just been stuck in like definitely the 50s, but it looks like it's even beyond that.
1850s.
That is so. I mean, and people are coming out now. I just saw Eric Weinstein did a presentation, and he's coming out. He's openly saying that they've classified physics, because I think Mark Andreessen, said that he had a meeting with Biden, or at least the administration, and they said openly that they've classified whole vast amounts of physics. And if they're openly saying that, I wouldn't be surprised.
But you got to take note that people are using Grok and AI to try to derive equations for them and try to think for them. All of Grok and all of the AI is using Lorentz invariance as their basis of math, which is the space-time curvature, thinking that light speed is always the same. And it will insist that that is the correct way. But I've checkmated Grok and ChatGPT a number of times in different sessions, testing it out, seeing if I could keep doing it. And I can keep doing it. And here's the main thing that will stump it. Ask the AI, when you point a laser beam or a flashlight at a mirror, is that the same light bouncing off of the mirror and continuing on with the same frame of reference?
I mean, most of us would think so, right? Yeah.
Or is it a brand new light being re-emitted from the electrons making up the mirror? The way that you answer will determine how you view the entire universe. If it's the same light or a different light. Dr. Dowdye was the first person in human history to suggest it's a brand new light. Even Isaac
That's beautiful, though. I love that. That's beautiful. That's a brand new light.
Walther Ritz, Wolfgang Pauli, all past emissions theories, relativity, ether theory, string theory, every theory assumes the speed of light must be the same in all frames of reference, requires a medium, and says it's the same light, except for Dr. Dowdye. And that's why I have wrote these 4 books, because if that assumption is correct, it means we can travel the stars using ships made out of wood.
Yeah. Yeah, if you understand how light works, you can just ride that wave. I guess you are riding a wave then, right?
You have a superconductive field of electron pairs around you that can dissipate inertia, because inertia is a sequential lag of electrons in 3 dimensions. But if your electrons are behaving as one, all in 2 dimensions, you can't have any lag or difference. So inertia can't affect you up to a certain speed and acceleration rate. So you can disable and negate inertia. You can change and transmute elements, all because you're spring loading electron pairs, which can push past the Coulomb barrier or fight against the existing gravity fields of planets and stars. You can do that on a tabletop or in a ship, or but you have to provide enough physics and explanations and justification for people to believe you, to fund these things, and that has been very difficult for the whole time.
So, I mean, yeah, because it's about control. I mean, if humanity understands this, and civilization understands this, there's no controlling us or keeping us to one spot and one planet, you know. And I don't know if it's our if it's humans that are doing this, or if it's something else that are trying to keep us from breaking out.
Yeah, no, that's debatable. It's all debatable.
It is, yeah. You know, kind of the recreation of light. It kind of also reminds me of Walter Russell, and a little bit, right? Because he does talk about mirrors and reflections. That the universe is basically just cubes, right, and spheres.
The cubic
with mirrors.
He said that it's light never travels, but I think that's an esoteric way of saying the same light never travels to you, but rather it's re-emitted from medium to medium. As he said, light is reproduced from wave field to wave field, but that wave field is just a different medium. So you have a longitudinal transfer of energy at the velocity of c, and upon blocking that energy, you get a transverse reaction, which then you can measure from your own electrons as a frequency of interference. So everything you measure is just the difference between you and what you're trying to measure.
I mean, just viewing the universe that way is revolutionary. I mean, even it'll at least for me, even it'll change a lot of perspectives I have. If light is just not a one-way road or one particle that's traveling, that it's re-emitting.
It's like a Newton's cradle, but in regards to bursts of light, like how the lights run around a Vegas sign.
Yeah.
Serving the illusion it's the same light going around. It's not. It's this one's turning off, this one's turning on, this one's turning on. It's like in sequence, a re-emission in sequence at the velocity of light, serving the illusion that it's a distortion of that primary. It's just a brand new light.
So do you think? Yeah. Well, no, I was going to say, do you think then that stars are created with the Z pinch? You know, the electric universe.
I subscribe more to Dr. Pierre-Marie Robitaille and his work, Sky Scholar, on YouTube. A star can be seeded with a hydronium atom, and the hydronium atom will seek out electrons. It'll soak them up like a sponge, and then it'll form another hydronium atom, which will then start to soak up another one, and it'll start to seek, like through electrostatic attraction. And then that grows and grows and grows into agglomeration and clusters and clusters. Now you have more mass, and the process just keeps going.
Yeah.
And then you have so much pressure that now you have a coherent center of that body, which then produces emissions of gravity. And then you have a planet or star at that point. But I even think there might be some, like in our own center of gravity within our gut, like our Chi center, the Dan Tien or something with the Taoist skull. We might have this little tiny point of coherence at our own center, and that's the reason why we're
alive or
interacting with stuff. It's in the head and the heart as well, but it's mainly centered at the center of gravity in our gut.
So quasars here. This is I was always fascinated with quasars, and it's still to me, I'm not, because there's so many theories out there, so I don't really understand Who was one of them? La Violette. I mean, he was way out there when he wrote his books. I think was it quasars? Was it pulsars he was talking about? Maybe it was pulsars, not quasars. He thought pulsars were warnings of ancient cataclysms. Yeah.
Now the electric universe has a different view on that. Like even double layers of plasma shorting out could produce those lights and arcs, which then produce radio waves and X-rays from shorting out those layers of plasma, like the Safire Project. So that's one. But having a planetary body spinning tens of thousands of RPM like a dentist drill without deforming like a frisbee,
right?
Say it must be the gravity that's holding it together because the space-time curvature. No, dude. And then they used a trampoline with the mattress model, which doesn't accurately depict anything. It's just nonsense. Quasars are that spectacular emission and explosion,
right?
From either end of that, and then the emissions can be detected, and those emissions only bend at the surface of our sun. They don't progressively bend like how relativity depicts how it should be farther away. No, it's only bending at the surface through refraction. And it takes condensed matter to refract things. And metallic hydrogen, condensed matter, satisfies that requirement.
Oh.
So relativity says that the stars are completely made of gas.
Right, gas, yeah.
You can't have refraction in a gas. So if light bends during a solar eclipse, then it must be space-time curvature because the sun is made of gas. But it's not made of gas. It's made of metallic hydrogen, which is condensed matter. And there is condensed matter in the corona and photosphere, which causes the refraction and the re-emission of light at a constant tangent. It's not the same light bending. And notice that the stars change position during a solar eclipse.
Right.
Only at the surface. Just like how a straw will bend in a glass.
Yeah.
Only at the surface, and there's no distortion. It's just a change of position. But relativity says there should be a progressive distortion in all wavelengths.
Right.
There's none. There is none.
There's the proof right there. So has anyone tried creating metallic hydrogen in a lab?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in 2018 at, I think it was Harvard, they had a diamond anvil, and they were able to reproduce metallic hydrogen. And then the anvil either cracked or lost pressure, so the metallic hydrogen reverted back into molecular hydrogen and gaseous hydrogen. So they lost the sample. But they did another test in 2020, a third-party validation, and did it again.
Wow.
So, and I have those uploaded in this thread on Dr. Pierre-Marie Robitaille and his work. In 1998, he doubled the largest magnetic field at like 8 Tesla. He found a flaw in the physics and the science of MRI, and he said it's okay to put a human being in an MRI machine. It's not going to fry their brain. The rest of the scientific community said, no, it's going to fry people's brains. You can't do that.
Reminds me of Tesla.
So he found the flaw in Kirchhoff's law of thermal emission and black body radiation. It said the whole theory it's invalid. It's not a law at all. So that's how he was able to rewrite the MRI stuff. So now everybody can use MRI around the world. So he applied that same methodology to the sun and said, wait a minute, the signals and the spectroscopy of the sun, it can't be a gas. It has to be condensed matter. And he has these 40 different proofs and validations for that, and over 65 papers. And he's my favorite living scientist. And I have a thread on that. And in that thread is the metallic hydrogen talk. There's another guy, Dr. Van Reyes, Vanraes, and he is an expert in metallic hydrogen and solid and liquid plasmas. Because everybody knows plasma is ionized gas, but there are exotic states of matter and solid and liquid plasmas as well.
Van Reyes? How do you spell that?
Vanraes. Van Reyes.
Yeah. Oh, here's the post that you did.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, he's very, very brilliant man. So the that's Alexander Unzicker talks a lot about Dr. Robitaille's work. He wrote a book called The Liquid Sun, A Coming Revolution in Astrophysics. And that talks about Robitaille's work and how the liquid metallic hydrogen solar model of the sun.
So, I mean, the information's out there, right? It's just but it's things that's not in mainstream, and it's not in mainstream science. But these are scientists who've written books, who've done experiments. I'm sure there's a lot, and there's peer review papers, right? I mean, I'm sure that's easy for these guys to do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they have peer review papers for sure.
So, yeah. So it's out there. It's just a matter of raising this awareness to the rest of the population, making them understand that these are not quack ideas, that actually the mainstream ideas have become quack ideas.
Exactly.
And they don't hold up to reality. So do you think suns and stars then are because also I think Walter Thornhill talks about this, where it's everything's connected, right? Consciousness is part of that. But I mean, like he says, like stars and suns are created from the galactic core, or they get their energy right from the galactic core.
Wallace Thornhill didn't really acknowledge the work of Dr. Pierre-Marie Robitaille or acknowledge that the sun could be made of metallic hydrogen.
Really?
So I disagreed greatly with Wallace on that aspect. I don't think that there were giant arcs of electricity between planets that carved out canyons and mountain ranges and stuff. And
interesting. Okay.
And like fossilize organics instantly. I don't subscribe to that model at all. But a lot of people in the electric universe theory do. But I don't.
Yeah.
That's like a Velikovsky worlds of collision type thing. But I do think that maybe Venus and the moon and other planets were brought in the wake of a larger body or asteroid, which then positioned in themselves where they currently are, but not that there were arcs of electricity between them during that process.
Because we haven't seen anything recent though, right? With that, I mean, it makes sense. Then they've showed it in the laboratory or they've recreated at least how it looks in the lab.
Yeah, like
we haven't seen
X or Nibiru or something. No, we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah,
not yet.
We haven't. Right, not yet.
Yeah, there's a lot. Speaking of like the potential alien stuff, and
yes, I mean, I'd like to get into that. I mean, I guess it's a good time now, and yeah, I mean, so Velikovsky, and you have Stitchin, you have all these people who try to bring in aliens, right? Into our history and what has happened. And there's definitely an agenda going on, right? There's definitely a psyop going on, especially with this subject. That's always been part of this subject, as we can see, and psyops are just everywhere. So what do you think of these new whistleblowers coming out? Like Lou Elizondo, Mellon, all these guys from the intelligence community. I think there's a rift going on. That yes, there's a secret, but there's a infighting happening between two groups. One that wants disclosure, and one want to keep the secret. But then, part of me also says that looks like a circus. That those two, that fight is not real at all, as well. We're still not getting the truth of what is actually happening and what the agenda is.
Yeah, my 2 cents is honka honka.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clown world.
Lame, dude. I think it's all so lame. People get reflections in the mirror, think it's a mothership and stuff. Dude, like credibility.
Oh my god, did you see that? Yeah.
You're done, dude. Sorry. So I'm not into any of these new guys. Like none of them.
Right.
I just like kick back and just watch the scene and see what happens, and then like point and laugh, dude.
They definitely muddied the waters. If Topher was here, he would talk about how, all right, just read my book and you'll get all the answers. That's what all of them are doing. Just read my book. Or
I got books too, but you can see the totality of my posts elsewhere. So if you want like what's in the book, you can also read it elsewhere. So I don't like restricted to that. But yeah, I got books too. You can't knock them just on that. But
no, I mean, but you're not saying. I mean,
you're talking about and how you present it, and if you keep it cryptic and secret and like documentaries and this and that, like I think it could be handled
Stories.
a lot better. And if you have some like cool information, show it.
Right.
Do it.
Damn it, show it. I think everyone is sick and tired of the stories. All of us are sick and tired of it. Especially people are, our age, who grew up with this. Who, I mean, when the internet first started, this stuff was all out there. I remember, and you just have to go looking for it. And it was so much fun finding these websites about these, the real old whistleblowers that weren't like sanctioned by the government, that didn't care if they still had a clearance. The guys that were out there just leaking this stuff. And Richard Dolan,
real people.
yeah, right, yeah, real people. I mean, Richard Dolan talks about that as well, where he was just a history student and he went on the internet and in message forums, and he would see these people talking about the UFO secrets. He's like, what are these guys talking about? But yeah, I mean that's always been in the internet age. So I'm very weary of these new guys. Maybe Grush a little less, right? But he's just, I mean, he's not a first-hand guy. He researched it.
I'm sorry. I'm like Ben Affleck with that cigarette in the picture. All of these people. I'm like,
yeah.
Like, none of this stuff, this new stuff impresses me at all. Sorry. I'm just like, I'm hungry for an omelet for some reason.
Right. No, I get it.
Yeah. Dude. Like, come on.
Yeah. I get it. And it's not going anywhere. That's the thing. It's just a complete distraction, and unfortunately, a lot of people have fallen for it.
I think there's a lot more interesting things that we could be focusing on. Real, tangible evidence that can be tested. Yeah,
so I guess we can get into that. I did see another post you had about the Roswell debris. Can you tell us a story about that and how you got this? Look at that. That's like the foil. Is that really Roswell? Yeah, I'll let you go and tell us the story.
So I met a man named Chuck Wade around 2010.
Yeah,
who claimed to have these pieces of metal, the strange pieces of metal that he said were from the Roswell crash.
Amazing.
And there are conflicting stories as to how he obtained those pieces. And because he told me when I met him that he found them in the desert, and when he was a young boy, that he saw these, he heard the crash, or he like heard something in the desert, and then went to the site and saw all these pieces of metal there and put them in his pocket, got this 2-foot piece of like debris and a couple other pieces, and then went home before the military arrived to get it all.
What? You're kidding me. So he was in New Mexico, obviously,
as a young boy.
Yeah.
And living on his parents' ranch. He's like a Native American guy. So he but then there's another story. Chuck Wade is on a podcast, and he describes how he obtained the pieces from some guy who brought them to him in a bar, who said that he got them from the Roswell crash. So I'm not sure exactly how Chuck Wade got these materials, right?
Okay.
That's the controversy with the obtaining them. But the materials themselves, Chuck Wade passed away last month, or maybe a month and a half ago. Before he passed away, he gave those pieces to my good friend, and he was testing them out, and I got to handle those pieces and test them, experiment with them, look at them under a microscope, test them with magnets.
How'd they feel?
Just like a little piece of metal.
Like paper-like metal, like aluminum, kind of like that kind of weight?
Like aluminum, but not aluminum foil. So that piece that you're showing right now weighs 0.175 grams.
Oh my God.
So what I did is I took a piece of aluminum foil, about 0.175 grams, and I looked at it under a microscope. I waved a magnet next to them to see how they reacted. And in no way does this material visually look like aluminum foil. Like there's goldish, and there seems to be gold on the material. Only where it's pinched, or where
exactly. Where it's pinched.
Aluminum doesn't naturally turn gold under any circumstances.
No.
You can anodize aluminum through an electrical process.
Right.
you can do a sputtering process or a chemical deposition process, but that didn't exist until the 1960s. So regardless of how these materials were obtained, they were obtained before the 1960s.
Right.
So how does this seemingly gold atomic layer or nano layer underneath the silvery aluminum layer, and it's extremely thin. You can see there's like a hollow cavity in there, almost as if it was a honeycomb, but then because if it was scrunched, you can see it's not a honeycomb anymore. It's just like flattened, but it was hollow, and it's stronger than aluminum foil. So when you wave a magnet over it, it reacts with eddy currents like aluminum.
Really?
So that tells me it's a paramagnetic material.
Yeah.
But I want to get these things tested live in front of everybody with X-ray crystallography, a scanning electron microscope, mass spectrometer, and some serious forensic equipment that I don't have. That would need to be done at a university or something. But I would go with my friend, and these pieces would not leave our side at all. And
I mean, take some security with you.
Yeah, so this would have to be like a legitimate thing to see. So what's shown there is this other square piece of, it looks like aluminum, but if you look at it under a microscope, they look like oil and water, sort of a opalescent or iridescent quality.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure what those markings are on the surface of that. If that is, if it's just simply packing tape that was ripped off and left the adhesive residue, or if that was purposefully machined on there as a dielectric layer, like an insulator for a capacitor plate.
Like, that's what it looks like.
Was that an advanced thing for a capacitor, or was it simply tape that was ripped off?
Yeah, I guess you need.
So it has to be tested. But remember, this is Clown World. Okay.
Yeah, it definitely
Nothing ever happens in Clown World, right?
No, nothing of substance.
But this is the greatest potential for nothing to happen ever. Right?
At least we have that.
Keep our feet on the ground. We all know what we want it to be, right?
Right.
We want it to be the Roswell spacecraft, whether it was ETs living underground or if it was aliens elsewhere, whatever it is, we hope and want this to be an exotic material. Cool.
Yeah. Right.
So allegedly, Chuck Wade had these materials tested forensically, as I am describing, and he had a website that you can access through Wayback Machine, and I haven't been able to see the documents that he previously uploaded there with the alleged results of these tests. So I don't know what they are even claimed to be. I can't see them. I can't see the results, but I think other people might have better luck.
What was his website called?
I'll have to get that. I have that on the in one of the posts there on.
Okay.
It's either in the comments or something. I'll get it for you later.
Okay, no problem.
But it's up there, and so allegedly tests have already been done, and there were anomalies. Like it wasn't just aluminum; it was some strange aluminum alloy. So there might be something there.
Right.
And what you're showing there in that video is my friend waving a magnet, a strong neodymium magnet, just very slowly over the material, and it reacts and moves in the wake of the magnetic field.
So there we go.
In order to do that with aluminum foil, I had to wave the magnet really quickly over it. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe it's the wind from my hand moving it. So I put put an acrylic sheet over it and then did it through. No, it still did it underneath it. So, okay, it's moves through eddy currents, but we need to know what it's really made of on a atomic level and see what's going on. And that's the goal.
Yeah.
So we have an outstanding claim, and we have the potential for something to be really cool, but we do live in Clown World, and we need to get this tested first before we can get any more excited.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think people are way more careful these days. What do you think of the pyramid, the Giza pyramid thing that came out from the Italian researchers using radar? They didn't penetrate, but they were looking at millimeter movements of what's
Well,
under the
if
Giza.
they,
Yeah,
if
what
they
do you
didn't
think about that?
penetrate, then it didn't count.
If what?
If they didn't penetrate, then it didn't count.
Yeah. So is that the argument that if so what's the
No,
argument? What's the argument that they're
the
doing with it?
argument is that they're using a weak thermal signal from an old satellite,
Yeah.
which can't really look into dry sand farther than a certain depth. And they got some heat map of one image, and people are
Right.
plugging that into AI. And then the AI is rendering that as pillars and pylons that are extending 2 miles underneath the pyramids.
Oh man, I hope
Like,
people are careful.
dude, like,
Yeah.
okay, I think we have to have a little better skeptical skills than just automatically thinking there's pylons like Total Recall underneath the pyramids. I want there to be the hidden.
Did you see some of those images? It looked like the Twin Towers, and then these cylinders going up, holding up basically the pyramid.
Spiral pillars. Yeah.
Yes, spiral pillars.
I'm not. Nah, Doug. I think lame. I'm not with that yet. But if they get other people are like, but they've had 3D imaging. Okay, then provide those images, please. They haven't shared those from what I understand, and people keep sharing a document from 2022. So let's see the updated information. And how are people suggesting the pillars if we don't have the updated information?
Yeah, there was something from March 15th. It's all in Italian, so I could not really, and I'm not gonna. There was no dubbing or anything, but I think there are translation in text. But so yeah, there's supposedly an hour video out there from March 15th that they came back and they presented their evidence and why they think there are structures underneath there.
I think that big old breastplate at the Sphinx, it's probably just blocking a staircase right there. Like, just dig what we already got. That's probably. I want there to be chambers in the hidden second Library of Alexandria that was purposefully burned. I still haven't gotten over that. Reincarnated life after life. Sad.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of mysteries around Egypt, obviously, but I'm going to be careful also with those structures because it is just insane how deep they are, how large they are.
We'll see what happens. I want it to be. I know what I want it to be, just like the Roswell debris, but let's see what it actually is.
Right, and
if there's something else to see, then we can get more excited. We say, "Woo!"
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Well, and because people are they really want badly for those pyramids to be a power station. Basically, did Tesla really believe that it was a power station?
I'm not sure, but I do
think an internet thing.
It would be very possible with the piezoelectric, the limestone, and then the granite and the insulator, and then capped with marble and gold. It probably shot off 3 beams of light exactly pointing at Orion during a certain time of year because they're honoring probably where they came from.
Right, exactly. And there was something else that came up. The Chinese did an experiment. I forget now what it was, but it was about the atmosphere and that they saw plasma bubbles on top of the Giza pyramids.
I think I've heard claims of that. Cool.
It doesn't mean anything, right?
I want it to be real. Show me, don't tell me, though.
All right, so Dr. Paul Brown, there's another one that you are a huge fan of. Yeah, tell us about him and his discoveries.
Dr. Paul Brown, as I think it was like a 20-year-old, he started messing with radioactive isotopes and discovered a way to make what he called a resonant nuclear battery. Around age 40 or 41, he died mysteriously after his company NuCell, NuCell, and Periphery Systems, it was launched on the NASDAQ. Shortly after that, he died. And what it does is he discovered a radioactive isotope can produce 100,000 times more energy than what current nuclear theory suggests. So he took strontium-90 and took a needle of that and demonstrated
a needle, a needle,
tiny, a 2 millimeter needle. And he generated 75 watts of power at a constant, which was more than the plutonium-based RTGs that the NASA has developed.
Yeah.
And if you scale that up, 1 gram of strontium-90 can provide about 7,500 watts of power.
Damn.
But current nuclear theory says you can only get 0.063 watts of power, like less than 0.1. So this guy figured out a way to combine radioactive isotopes in an alloy and spring load the alpha and beta decay. So the harmful particles that shoot off can be blocked by a thin piece of binder paper or aluminum foil. And you can have a 2 millimeter piece of like material in your phone, and you wouldn't irradiate your hand or your head or your crotch at all. And your phone could work for 28.8 years at a constant.
That is nuts. So wait, and
you can adjust the half-life, because what the technology does is it uses the half-life of a material. It has a magnetic lens, a coil of wire around the radioactive isotope, and it focuses the radioactive decay into a stream. Charged particles in a stream is electricity. So he makes generation of electricity through the radioactive decay directly. And it's dependent upon the half-life of the material. So if strontium-90 has a half-life of 28.8 years, after 28.8 years, your battery will work half as good as it did when you first started it.
Oh, all right. But it'll still work.
If you have a isotope with 10,000 year half-life, or an alloy with, you can adjust and program the radioactive isotope to have a given half-life, so that you can program things. You can have a drone flying for 1,600 years.
That is so amazing. So is it easy
as long as the bearings on the drone don't give out? That's the failure now.
Right. So I don't know, but is strontium-90 easy to find or easy to make?
No, it's I think you would have to refine it and combine. It's nuclear material, so it would have to have a regulated professional environment with nuclear stuff. It's like, it's not a joke. You can't do this in your garage with people. Like Paul Brown did this with permits and like very, very high stringent, even as a young man. So he developed what is called the magnetron atomic generator, the MAG, the RNB, the resonant nuclear battery, and the INB, the ionic cell battery. And Dr. Peter Beckman and 3 NASA scientists came and investigated and tested out his unit, and it was providing enough energy to power 5 homes at peak load.
Yes.
Until it melted the transmission lines with 2.
That is just amazing.
And then so get this, the guy who is Paul Brown's attorney, Philip Talbert, he told Paul Brown to stop working on his SEG because Paul Brown was in contact with tried to get in contact with John Searl in 1986 because Paul Brown built his own Searl Effect Generator using neodymium and strontium-90.
Wow.
And it developed a megawatt of energy before melting the wires and burning up, and it couldn't be stopped. It had like an exothermal runaway reaction, like thermite.
Oh no. Yeah, that's scary.
Almost burned down his lab. So his attorney, Phil Talbert, and his associates said, holy crap, stop working on this. Not only is it dangerous, but the association with John Searl flying UFOs around, it's like too much to handle because we're trying to launch on the NASDAQ right now. We have like serious investors. So stick to your resonant nuclear battery and stop trying to like do the UFO thing.
Oh, too bad. So
Paul Brown listened to them.
Of course he did.
And he died shortly thereafter. So here's the kicker. Philip Talbert approached our company and said, hey, we didn't know that John Searl was still alive. We want to help you out. So we unfortunately made him our attorney back then around 2016.
Yeah.
Those are the people who filed the fraudulent
patent.
Yeah. It was Paul Brown's associates who did that. So they felt that the technology is so valid that they wanted to protect it. And how we have to protect it, because this is just because they saw Paul Brown do it, and then they saw him get like taken out. So they felt that the people are not moving fast enough to their liking, and they wanted us to hit the Paul Brown way. But he used he used a radioactive isotope. John Searl didn't do that, didn't need that.
Right. Yeah, he didn't need it.
So they were trying to dictate what we were doing from Florida over here in San Diego. It was a whole infighting thing, and we had to switch up the company. But those are the people who have been preventing us from getting the funding, is the people who worked with Paul Brown.
So, wow, look at how that came back.
It's all legitimate, and it's none of the reasons is because it's not valid. It's all because people want to control it and protect.
So what happened to his company? I mean, he said it was going on NASDAQ. Did it
got dissolved because
he dissolved after his death?
Yeah.
Oh,
they were too scared to continue. They didn't know how the secrets, because Paul Brown refused to divulge the 3 radioactive isotopes. Particular, I think it was radium, thorium, and uranium. But there's combinations that he used specific that he said worked best and was the key. But that's the concept, is that he spring loaded the radioactive decay using a magnetic lens, a coil, which then focused him into a beam like the double slit experiment. But instead, it's using a radioactive material and generating electricity from that process.
So cool. I mean, this stuff is just because it's real. I mean, yeah, UFOs are cool too, but those are stories. This is just as interesting. Yeah, exactly. So do you think that's why also UFOs are so interested in nuclear energy, and or they're attracted to it, because they obviously know that it can be used as a very valid and powerful energy source. So, do they see it as, let's go near there to recharge, or is it something like, this civilization is starting to develop? Let's
I can only speculate, but I have wild speculations here. Okay. So, let's say it's real. Okay.
Yeah.
My suspicion is that if ETs and aliens are real, they've probably been on or in the earth for like 1 million years in extremely large caverns that are the size of probably small countries, like 10 to 100 miles below the surface. Not hollow earth, but caves.
Right. Caves,
crystal cavern, whatever it is. So giant, massive. So they probably have been here, and if an asteroid would come and take the earth out, and it would disrupt their plans, they'll divert the asteroid.
Right.
If it'll only destroy the surface, screw it, let it happen.
Yeah, they'll let it happen. Yeah.
If we are setting off nuclear blasts that are disturbing their communications or whatever it is that they're doing,
they'll show up.
They'll shut it out, and they'll show up, or only if it directly affects them, they will silently do something about it and then investigate. And at the age and the dawn of our nuclear era, they're probably like, okay, let's see how far along they are. If it's real, people, okay, let's play devil's
right. If it's real, yeah.
But I think that they would use a nuclear method to generate gravity and power their world, just like the resonant nuclear battery. They would have specific alloys of nuclear materials that they would mine from the moon, or they would mine from the asteroid belt, and then have their manufacturing process or whatever they're doing. And if you're using this nuclear fuel with the half-life, if you're using it to just power a light bulb, it can go for the half-life of that material. But if you deplete that material to negate inertia and to neutralize stuff like that, like you want to travel faster than light, that half-life, that 10,000 year half-life might drop to 100 years or a year, maybe just a few hours.
Oh, because you're using so much of it. Yeah.
You're depleting the spring-loaded effect of the isotope, and you can only do that so much. So the more that you zip off 90-degree turns at thousands of miles an hour, the more you would deplete the material. So you can either do it that way, at which point you would constantly have to refuel and mine materials, or you can do it John Searl's method which
Mhm.
you're dependent upon the amount of mass. You can convert at a constant and you can zip off going however fast, but that you have a limit to that, and that is dependent upon the mass that you have, which can convert a given amount of energy at a certain rate. So you either can keep refueling, or you're stuck with a fixed amount of mass and limits to that. Or maybe you can do both. And you
Yeah,
can,
probably both. Makes sense.
and other stuff that have no clue, I haven't even thought of. But I
Yeah.
think that is combinations of that. Like, if it is real, they are probably doing that and constantly manufacturing, and it's
Mhm.
just like we're just a surface dwelling consequence.
I believe that too. Yeah, and it's and I think you're right. When we were testing nukes, especially hydrogen bombs, that's when these things really started showing up, and you can see it in the data is when they started showing up. And then we started nuking space. I was like, why? Who are we doing that for? It's kind of obvious, you know. And he recently passed away. I forget his name now, but he worked in the JFK administration. Malmgren, maybe his last name. He was a research scientist with there, and he said that Star Prime, you know, that they knocked down a UFO, and then there was video footage of it showing this craft following the ICBM that launched those nukes
Oh,
into
I've seen
space.
that, the remake video from that. Yeah, there's a lot of claims from that one too.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I'm not
yeah.
sure. I know.
It's just we did crazy stuff, and for what? Like, did we really need to like put nukes in space unless we're trying to scare someone or trying to, you know, I don't know, show that we have power or something? It's just it can't be just for experimentation. I mean, it might be. It just seems insane to, to launch nukes into space. You know?
But there's a purpose, because there's a hidden war and space race unbeknownst to the rest of the population, and they're doing stuff that
Yeah.
will probably worry and piss everybody off.
Well, okay. What about this? What do you think about a secret space program that we might have in the United
Well, if
States, or is
they
that?
have, yeah, well, yeah, I do think that there is something like that. To what extent? I
Yeah.
don't really know, man. I don't
Right.
believe in time travel, because the model that I use, the velocity of light shifts, not time. Time is a constant.
Ah.
So
Okay.
you can zip off going quadrillions of times faster than light
Right.
in now, simultaneous everywhere, like Star Trek. Like, they're going warp drive, right? But they can
Right.
still talk and communicate with other worlds in real time. It's not that there's dilation of any of that. That's just between the clocks. It's not in reality. So, secret space program, I think that they have the ability to go a certain rate and maybe a certain distance, but uh, I don't know. They probably do. I just don't know. I want it to be real, but then again,
I
I know
know, me too.
people controlling that are bad.
That's the thing. I mean, unfortunately, we are ruled by evil psychopaths, you know, and whenever someone gets in power, they either, I don't know what happens, they get hypnotized, or they're just so in awe of their power or wealth that they just go along with it. But every time someone gets into positions of power, they just go along with it. You know, or maybe they're threatened. Could be as simple as that, that they're just threatened with their lives, and they just, you know, and they're like, shut up, and here we'll make you very rich, kind of thing.
I'm not with that. I've been waiting for the Men in Black to kick in my door for
Yeah,
like
well, exactly. Me
3
too.
years, man. I had milk and cookies waiting, but everything evaporated and went stale.
Well, have you? I mean, you said your colleague and
Yeah, my
partner.
colleagues directly.
He was.
I did have very strange occurrences. Someone like didn't break into the house, but they walked into the house. It was on camera.
Yeah.
They slipped me this Ulysses satellite sticker, this NASA sticker under my doormat, and like they knew they were on camera. They were hiding their face, and then they sort of like walked through the door. Like, they
What?
either did it in one motion without a key or with a key, like in one more, or they just walked through the door
You
on
have that
camera.
video?
And
Whoa.
I gave that video to the cops because I was living with my parents at the time. My mom was
Yeah.
watching the video camera and she saw this person. She thought it was me playing a joke or something. And the guy walked in the house, and like my mom called me, was like, Jason, is that you? I'm like, what do you mean?
Whoa.
Somebody's in the house right now. So luckily my friend, who was 6'8" and 250, is like was staying with me. So we grabbed some things and went into the other room
Yeah.
to see what was going on. and
Nothing.
there's nobody. It's cobwebs on the mirrors. Nobody there. The only way out is through that door, and there was nobody. Nobody.
Man, what is
They never
going
came out on
on?
the camera. So like, complete mystery, dude. I have no. So that was just. Oh, and then a week later,
Someone's interested. Yeah.
and then a week later, could be unrelated. I don't know. But my friend was on the balcony and he saw this van, this white van with a satellite on top.
That sounds like a joke.
Dude, he pointed at it and he said, "Hey, yo, what is this?" And it screeched off.
Oh, come on. You
It was
gotta be kidding me.
I was like, bro, come on, dude. Like this, whatever, dude. That's not for me, dude. I can't be. Like, what am I
Right.
going to be doing, dude? Like, but that happened right after I, like a couple weeks after I got back from Dr. Stephen Greer's sea SETI thing. At Mount
Oh, really? What year is that?
2008.
Oh, wow. He
Yeah,
was
that
doing
was
sea steady back then.
yeah, that was that. So whatever Dr. Greer's weirdness and stuff, like in his, you know,
I mean, Elizondo calls him a terrorist. I mean, so that just shows you what the government thinks of him.
he is genuine when he talks about certain things. So, like, I've
Yeah,
seen it myself. It happened at my house, over my own house, with witnesses. It's like 4 or 5 other people. A star, like looking like it was October 14th, 2008.
Mhm.
It looked like a satellite moving in the sky, and then it stopped and it descended. It kept coming down and down, bigger and bigger, until it was like a full moon. My friends were screaming at me, what? And then it hovered for like 15 seconds and then just silently, as far as the eye can see, in 2.5
That's
to
so
3
cool.
seconds, straight
That is so
overhead
cool.
into the horizon, silent. It changed my life.
Well, that will get you a visit. For sure,
I'll
that'll
never
get you a
let that
visit.
go, dude. Like,
Wow.
not a
Now,
helicopter, not a drone. I will never
Yeah.
let that go.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff here around here. My mom has a house that overlooks. We can see Catalina Island, and obviously the oceans in between. So we've seen a lot of stuff through there. But there's a cliff near there. Me and Topher wanted to go and do like a sea SETI there, right on the cliff. It's overlooking the ocean. Catalina's there. People claim there's a base there, so it would be a perfect place to do it. But we keep chickening out. I'm doing it because we know. Yeah.
It doesn't. People like Mick West are like, prove it scientifically.
Yeah.
If you can't provide scientific analysis, then it's not real, and you can't call it real. I agree up to a point with a level of skepticism, but with things like this, I think it's a little different. Mm-hmm. It's like achieving a state of selflessness and nirvana, like in a meditative state.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that you're going to do that like ever in life. You might achieve it once. You might achieve it multiple times. You don't know. But trying to film yourself doing that and facilitating something, good luck.
Exactly. Especially when there's cameras around. It makes it very, very difficult because it's not sincere. It's not sincere anymore. You're doing it for the cameras. You're doing it for the views. You're doing it with the intention of trying to show proof, which it never works.
It didn't work. It didn't work for me. When I did it, it took me months to try to do that, and then 5.5 hours that day of like meditating, and I had a camera on my lap peeking up in the sky. Are you there? Are you there? Like an idiot, dude. Like, what are you doing, dude?
I know what you're talking about.
And after I put my camera down, my friends came over, and then I was like, I wanted to go to the bathroom, take a piss after 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
So I had 1 foot in my house, and then my friend started screaming at me. Look, what the hell is? And then like it started coming. I dove on my stomach for my camera. This thing is descending over my house. I'm fumbling trying to start the footage, and I got this sense. I'm like, dude, just look at it and experience the moment, or you can fumble on your camera and maybe get something and not see any of it. So I just said, okay, screw it, dude. I just like held the camera in my hands, like down by my side, like 5.5 hours practicing like Wyatt Earp, like in the sky, like I'm gonna film this, like okay, I'm gonna get nothing, dude. And as soon as I put the camera down,
it was there.
It happens. So there's like, believe it or not, whatever it is, it happened to me. I'll never let it go, and it changed my life, dude.
So cool. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, once you experience a real one, it's something else.
I tried filming it, Mick.
Yeah. Mick, I mean, I feel bad for people like him, although I think he believes it's real. He's doing something, or
He's like James
he's
Randi.
in it for a reason.
He needs hardcore evidence like a true skeptic. He's a
Yeah,
skeptic, but
right.
in some areas he's a pseudo skeptic. But
Yeah.
I mean, come on, if somebody's claiming to frickin' facilitate spaceships, in a lot of ways, I'm with Mick West, bro. Like, come on,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Reflection in the mirror, guys.
What do you think of Skywatcher and what Jake Barber's doing with the egg and summoning crafts? You think that's part of it? I started out believing him. I kind of still do, but I think he's red teaming us. He even brought it up, by the way.
Bro, like I said earlier, like for some strange reason, I just got hungry for an omelet. Like, that is one of the lamest attempts. I don't even know what is going
summoning eggs. Yeah, yeah.
Good. Somebody's fertile, at least.
That's so funny. All right, cool. I so love free energy and these type of physics and breakthrough energies. I'm doing a website also. Now you scared me about AI because you said AI is going to use it's not going to really steer you the right way, but because I'm not a scientist or a physicist, I have tried to use AI to help me put in the right products for the site, and I want to facilitate innovators, inventors, or hobbyists to create different experiments, so I have been filling out the store. Maybe I'll send it to you and get your opinion. What do you think about if I have everything in there? But there's exotic materials in there, RF equipment, antennas. I'll send you a whole. But it's a lot of stuff in there, and I think hopefully might have an effect. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, we need
Nice.
as anybody who experiments and tries to do things for themselves, you will gain a lot of insight.
Nice.
Lastly, I have a thing on that about knowledge and gaining knowledge.
Yeah.
It's like Russian dolls, Matryoshka dolls. I look at that the same way, but with dunce caps on our own head.
That's hilarious.
So every time you learn something new and you validate something, you take a dunce cap off your head, and there's a smaller dunce cap underneath.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You'll never completely have a bald head. You'll always have a dunce cap, but the goal in life is to minimize the size.
Yeah,
Just keep
exactly. I
taking
agree.
off dunce caps. You know what I mean? However many I have still on, dude, there's a lot. Hey, but we try. That's all I got to say.
I mean, we'll get there. If I just want everyone to have a passion, or because we used to have that more, I think, a long time ago than we do today. But there's a resurgence. I don't know if these MH370 videos are real or not, but people like Ashton Forbes, who's really pushed 0 point energy and free energy. I love what he's doing there. I love that he's bringing that consciousness up. Forget if the videos are real or not. I'm not sure if they are, but I like that he's bringing science back, or at least an interest in it. And I think that's the only way. If many people can become experimenters and experiment with this, we'll have a better future. We won't be stuck.
It's about putting the information on the table for all people to sort through, and they will naturally lean towards what makes most sense to them.
Yeah.
But we just got to be able to have the conversations and put the information out there. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. So what are the next steps for you guys? I mean, I would love for someone to take on those patents, the fraudulent patents, and just get them out of the way. I know it'll take money, but you can probably crowdsource that, but
that's an interesting take, because it's not a
yeah.
That's interesting. I'm not sure, but I'll run that by Fernando and see what we can see on that front.
And I don't know if it's a battle you want to take on, because those are
we need to have a lump sum in order to pay for the engineers and the full-time work, and pay for the overheads and all the other costs that are associated with this type of funding. We really should be getting support equal to SpaceX, NASA, or CERN.
Absolutely, you should. Yeah.
But alas, there it is.
Well, hopefully, someone like Bezos, or you said Sir Virgin guy, what's his name?
Richard Branson,
Branson, yeah.
Or pesos. Yeah,
Besos.
we could use some love here, please. Kiss the wallet, please.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get his attention, I think he'll be interested, especially if it's going to help him, outdo Musk.
Well, those are the claims, but the
claims.
important thing is if you want to be a partner now or a customer later, because there's one or the other.
Very nice. So where can people find you're on X? We're gonna put all your posts
in
there. What's your company called?
SEG Magnetics Incorporated. SEG Magnetics.
Very nice. You got a website, and we will also link that.
Hey.
And it has this field has a future, and you've been at this for a long time. The fruits of your labor will show, I think, and you are in the you're in the right position at the right time. It's all about that, right? I mean, luck and being at the right time, right place, the right moment.
Yep, we got the knowledge has to have action and the drive behind it, or else it's just an idea. So you have to apply your ideas in the real world and dedicate yourself to keep going at it. That's what we do here at SEG Magnetics. Businesses usually fail within the first year, but we've been around even since the whole Corona debacle, and
nice,
going nowhere.
Nice. Well, we support you. Our listeners support you, and we're definitely gonna keep this message going. I'm going to send you what I have on the site to see if I'm going the right way. Again, I'm using AI, so I have no idea what I'm doing.
Whatever, man.
But it's like so far I have like over 50 products that that people can use and put together for free energy devices. Yeah, so we'll see.
Cool. Let's check it out.
All right, awesome.
Thank you to everybody who's listening now and later. Love you all, and let's see what we can do.
Yeah, so thank you all for listening. You can follow us on X, where we're always active. We're also on all the video platforms on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. So thanks for everyone, and we will see you again next week. Bye, everyone.